Josh Gondelman from Desus and Mero, Brad Ingelsby from Mare of Easttown, Brett Goldstein from Ted Lasso, Little Marvin from Them, and Paul Sims from What We Do in the Shadows. All of you WGA Awards nominees for your shows for this year. I guess I wanted to start just like you kind of, some of you touched on this when we were doing our individual conversations, but obviously how people are ingesting your content is just always changing, right? Like it's either a weekly episode, or you could maybe people are watching all at once, they're binging them, or they're getting an out of context like screen grab or GIF from Twitter or something. When you're writing, how do you think about how the audience is going to be ingesting your art, I guess, for lack of a better word, and how does that affect maybe how you write, or do you not even think about it at all? Josh, I'd love to start with you. I feel like from a late night's perspective, maybe you have a different perspective than everybody else, but I'd love to hear what you like, how you guys work on this.
For sure. I mean, I think we think about the show as like within the framework of late night, first of all, right? Like it's going to air at a time on a network, and that's how like we hope a lot of people watch it. But I think it's also fun to create these moments. Like we have a really wonderful digital team that really thinks about like what fun moment from the show can have a life beyond what we see. So I think we try to write the show for what it is, right? Like a series of segments that creates a half hour. And you guys, I'm describing television to a bunch of television. But then I think it's also fun to like see the ways it can be reconfigured and recontextualized, and the way people give the Mero falling out of his chair a second life, or like seeing the guys in really silly costumes and like those screenshots kind of going wider. I think that's like a really lovely, wonderful thing, whether it's something that our team kind of pushes into the world, or just something when people seize on it organically is a lot of fun too.
Yeah. Brad, how about you? Obviously, like Mare of Easttown, a murder mystery, we talked about this, like kind of people are watching it week to week and building up interest in it. But I mean, when you're writing it, do you write it as like, I guess, how do you think about that? Like, how do you think about how people are going to be watching it?
I never did in the past. I did movies that not many people went to see. So it was never on my mind really. But I think with Mare, I guess it was a murder mystery. So we were sort of, in some ways, had to meet the genre expectations. And by that, I mean, has to end on somewhat of a cliffhanger. So I think it was the first time in my life that I had to look at it as a viewer as HBO show. It's going to be on Sunday nights. It's going to air one episode a week. How do we get people coming back? And so I think, so that was certainly on my mind. We were writing each episode was, what is the cliffhanger? And also like, how is it an earned cliffhanger? It can't just be at the end of the episode, throw something in there that gets them come. That has to be emotional, organic to the characters. But for the first time in my life, I had to think that way. So yeah, that was certainly on my mind this time. And I think a lot of it had to do with the genre I was writing in, which is, a cliffhanger murder mystery type thing.
Yeah. Brett, you mentioned this when we were talking in our individual chat, but like how like people, we like watching the show and coming to conclusions before you guys got to pay off, like what you were building. Did then that change like for season 3, I guess? Did you guys, was that like in your heads and you were writing it, and like how people are gonna like react to Ted Lasso now, even though you obviously have it, like you said, like mapped out, like it's a 3-season arc and that, but I mean, does that kind of like play into what
you know what? I'll tell you one thing that like we, as I say, season 2 we wrote without knowing what the audience thought. There's one thing that's really shocked us all, which is how much people hate Nate by the end of season 2. Like, we're like, fuck, like, as far as we're concerned, like, I'm sympathetic to Nate. I know why he's like this. We've done his psychology. I feel sorry for him. People want to fucking kill him. Like, I feel so bad. Like, he's a stand-up. He was doing a gig, Nate, Nick Mohammed, and I promoted it on my Twitter, and people were going, I'm not fucking going unless we're going to kill him. And it's like, what have we done? And, that's been really interesting. That has been like the one thing that is like so blown up in a way that we didn't expect or necessarily want. Like we certainly didn't. We don't want everyone to hate Nate. So I think that's a good example of, we probably have to be. I think we're aware in the writing of season 3 of how we position him, because we don't want people to hate him even more. Like they want him dead. So we've got a base level. You know what I mean?
Right. Little Marvin, how about yourself? Obviously, Them is an anthology show for a season, but I mean, like, yeah, like when you were writing it, like we kind of touched on this too, like, you know, like when you're pushing buttons or like, you know, kind of like trying to create something that's going to get people talking, like how did you write it, and like what were your thoughts on that?
I literally had none. You know, it's your first season of television, so I'm just trying desperately not to be fired for like 2 years. So like, don't fire me was basically my only MO.
Yeah.
And then the show really, you can't even think beyond the day, right? And so then I just kept feeling like we were making this show, and it just felt like we're just making it. And then there's a point at which it's released. Like nothing can prepare you for what that feels like. So if I'm being honest, I didn't really think about it at all. That might shift moving forward, but it was not my experience the first season. We just sort of like put it out there. And that said, you do know as you're making things, you're not an idiot, so you know there are things people are going to respond to, but nothing can prepare you for what it actually feels like when it happens.
Right. And Paul, yourself, last to wrap up.
I mean, I would say I'm old-fashioned, and I like the fact that our episodes air once a week. I mean, I know a lot of people binge them later, but I like the fact that it airs once a week. And one thing we've talked about from the beginning is wanting this to be like an old-fashioned, like, you know, Mary Tyler Moore, the Beverly Hillbillies, or whatever. Like, if you watched them all out of order, you would still enjoy it. For everyone who really does like really pay attention, we do tell season-long arcs, but we're always careful. We just never wanted to have an episode where someone who's never seen it before would go like, hold it, what's going on? Why is this happening? Like, we want them all to sort of stand alone. And if you watch, you know, religiously, then yeah, we do tell a longer story. But what Brad was talking about with the cliffhanger is we like write a cliffhanger episode. Like the end of every season is usually some big move. But other than that, we just like people to go like, that was a good one, and I'll watch the next one. But I you know, there's no mystery or nothing driving me crazy about what's going to happen next.
Brad, for what it's worth, my heart breaks for Nate.
Just you get it, little Marvin.
All time you're watching, like, why you don't have to make these choices. You don't have to.
You get it. Thank you, man. Thank you.
I think Nate's a good character. I'm surprised people just hate him so much, but I look forward to seeing what I assume would be a redemption arc or something in season 3.
Who knows? We might just kill him just to please the fans.
Gucci went back to his home planet with Nate. I want to ask you a little broader, but I feel like, and you maybe will say your modesty aside, I feel like when you're a writer, you either have it or you don't. I think obviously all of you guys have it and are really, really good at writing. And when did you realize that it was something you were good at? I guess, like, was it like, you know, was it an early job on a TV show, or like when you were a kid, or like when did you realize you had talent to be an actual writer? Josh, I'll start with you.
I mean, it's a feeling that I'm still kind of chasing. And it's elusive, and it happens and then it disappears. I mean, I had the very good fortune to be like in high school doing, you know, little creative writing things, and I would get this is truly my origin story as a comedy writer, which is, there's no more boring way to start a paragraph than that. But in high school, class president, vice president, secretary, etc. was they had 2 jobs. One was to plan the class dances and proms, and the other was to write a comedy sketch for the school variety show. So I was class vice president and then president on the strength of sketch comedy writing. It was like it won me literal popularity contests, and so I was like, yeah, maybe this is the way to go. I played 1 season on the JV basketball team and scored a total of 3 points, so that's not going to be it.
That's awesome. Brad, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Josh. I think it's I don't know that you ever really get there. And I think I kind of use that as a drive. You know, it's hard to get up every day and stare at the blank page. I think you need something that kind of, I don't know, gets you up every day. And if you ever get too confident, I feel like that's a scary place to be, actually. In terms of when I started writing, I was a business student in college, and I took an elective. It was a screenwriting class, and a really, really awesome teacher pulled me aside one day and said, hey, you know, I think you're way more interested than the other kids, all football players. I don't know if it was saying too much, but like, I think you're way more interested. Is this something you want to give a shot? And I have to be totally honest, it was the nudge that really got me thinking about it. And so that just shows you the importance of a nice teacher pulling you aside in a kind moment. And that was really the moment when I thought, I don't know, shit, maybe, I don't know. I got nothing else. I don't want to go into business. That's what I studied. I might as well try it. And here I am. So that was my origin story.
That's great. Brett, how about you?
I think it was when I realized that my talent didn't lie in lighting myself for a Zoom meeting. I thought it's probably somewhere else. Maybe it's in writing. I mean, I've made the room so lit. Everything other than me is perfectly. It's really well art designed.
Mysterious.
Yeah, thank you.
Little Marvin?
I agree with everything everyone said. I mean, it is I am so just honored, I have to just say, to be with these guys. It means the world to me. This is my first show, and I had, my origin story is I talked myself out of believing there was a place for me to be, or to have this as a career for like forever. I mean, it was my dream forever, for sure. I wanted to write since I was a kid, but like, it just felt like this impossible thing that I couldn't, like, lived out there. Like, other people did it and I didn't do it. And I just decided at a certain point in my life to like just hunker down and commit. And thank God, because now I get to sit with these guys, which is like a huge honor. So yeah.
And Paul?
I would say, I guess, since I assume a lot of the people who are watching this are writers or aspiring writers, I would say that for me, like, I was always able to like write funny stuff, but the big turning point was when I became a writer for Letterman and realized that you can't, with a job like that, as Josh I'm sure will attest to, you can't sit around and wait to be inspired or feel funny. Mm-hmm. You're doing a show that night and it's got to be written, and then that one's done, and the next day, you're going to write between 3:00 and 4:30, you're going to write the top 10 list, and there's no sitting around waiting for inspiration. Oh, I don't feel like doing it today. It's you realizing that I could turn that on like a switch out of just desperation was a great, made me feel like, yeah, I could make a living at this.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess, like, just wrapping up, like, last thing, I guess, what is, outside of your own work and stuff, what is something that you've been like inspired by, or that you've seen like writing, like you're like, oh, that is like really, really something that I like appreciate as a writer, I guess. Josh, it doesn't have to be a show. It could be literally, I mean, anything, like a tweet or any. I just am curious, like, what are some things that write?
Please,
like
nobody say tweet.
There was this one tweet.
It said delete your account. I was like, wow, this really speaks to me. Imagine if I was like the kind of dick that was like, a tree. But I mean, I like love. Outside of TV writing, I'm a stand-up. I love watching stand-up. I've recently like really enjoyed Yellow Jackets and kind of the tension of that, of like, ooh, how much to tell an audience versus how much to keep secret. I mean, like, I don't know. I feel like when I was like this is such a vast question. I mean, like, the rap music of Method Man and Redman. I'm just gonna keep naming.
That's good. We can go a little more rapid. That's good. Brad, how about you?
Well, I love Ted, Brett, so I love that show. That's always an inspiration.
Oh, thank you very much. I love your show.
Adore the show. It's just terrific. What have I seen recently? I just watched the movie Mass, which I thought was really great. I love that. Yeah, I thought that was just tremendous. That's my most recent one.
That's good. I like that one too. Brad, how about you?
Mass is fucking incredible, and everyone should watch it. It's incredible bit of writing, incredible acting, incredible everything. But the writing of the characters in that is really, aside from everything, the way the characters are really complicated and not entirely likable, but all sympathetic. Fuck, it's good shit. That is really good shit. I also, I'm always impressed with, like, if you saw It's a Sin, Russell T Davis's show, I'm really impressed where it's like there's loads of characters in it, and within the first 5 minutes he's done sort of 5 big set pieces with loads and loads of characters, and within 5 minutes you're in love with all of them. You're in love with all of them, and there's like 20 people. It's like, I don't know how you do that. That's annoying.
That's good. Little Marvin?
Pleasant company aside, because I love the show here so much. I loved Math. It was fantastic, and it ripped my heart out. I was super inspired by Tragedy of Macbeth. I don't know. I mean, talk about a writer, but I just it's what's in my mind.
What's his name? What's his name again? The guy?
Yeah, this
New guy. I never heard of him. But there's something about the.
Is he nominated?
It should be. There's something about the way it was written through the direction that I just found, like, tonally, I thought it was just stunning, and I could have lived in it. So that inspired me.
That's a great one. And Paul, for you,
I would say, ever since Steve Coogan started making Alan Partridge shows, I've loved every season. And when the most recent season, which I think is called This Time with Alan Partridge, came out, it's on HBO Max. There's a plug for them. I've watched it over and over and recommended it to so many people. It's when you're a comedy writer, sometimes you don't laugh out loud, but it just makes me laugh out loud. And the fact that he's been able to do that character for 25 years now, but always finds a new twist on it is, I just think there's nothing better. And then I'll also say, it's a super small one, but on Cinema that Tim Heidecker does, the way it's little bite-sized pieces, but this weird world they've built out of it is just constantly makes me laugh.
Yeah. Those are great. All of these are awesome choices. I'm so glad you guys talk about. Mass is a big fan of that as well, but I'm also a huge fan of all your shows, which are incredibly good, and all of your WGA award nominees. I'll go around again before we wrap up. Josh Gondelman from Desus and Mero, Brad Ingelsby from Mare of Easttown, Brett Goldstein from Ted Lasso, Little Marvin from Them, and Paul Sims from What We Do in the Shadows. It's been great chatting with you all about this. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
This has been a real pleasure. It's nice to meet you all.
Yeah, nice to meet everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good day, guys.
Thank you so much, everyone. This is great.
Thank you.
Thank you.